Okay, this is my experiences where the aliens are always sticking me in my Uncle John's and my Aunt Elaine's mansion. But the thing is, they've never lived in a mansion. They've always lived in a fancy big house, but it wasn't a mansion. But I just figured this out. The reason why they take me to their mansion, and I know it's the Reptilians, the reason why the Reptilians take me to their mansion all the time via, OBE, virtual reality, lucid dream. The reason is I just figured this out because I started thinking about it because they just gave me, or he did or whatever, the reptilian or whatever just gave me two back-to-back lucid dreams in their mansion, like 2 different days, like consecutively, like the 18th and the 19th. And I just figured this out. Because when I was like, well, actually, I thought they started their business in 1940 something. John did, but I just looked on the internet. I thought it was 1946, but it said on the internet. Well, I don't know. It said 1957. But anyway, it was either 1946. Because I think they started it right when they got out of college, like age 19 or whatever. The 1957 may have been something else. But anyway, they started their business, Thomas Electronics, in 1946, and it's still in business. It's an electronics company. And I don't know what they sell exactly, but you can order like phone systems for big businesses, telecommunication systems, and also like for airports and stuff. But anyway, Tim, is this still rolling? Tim died a few years ago, and he's my other uncle. I didn't really know him as well, but John I knew very well. And he's still alive, but he has Alzheimer's and is not doing so good. And Aunt Elaine, she had open heart surgery or whatever, so I'm sure she probably doesn't look real good either. But she's like 82 now, and he's like 84. And Tim, I think, died about 1 or 2 years ago, my other uncle. He also was part owner of the business, Tim and John. They both owned the business. But anyway, I just looked it up, and I thought it was kind of interesting. It said that their annual... This is the first time I ever looked this up. It said annual revenue of $3,135,214. They're in Fort Worth, Texas. And this is the name of their company, Thomas Electronics. But anyway, as a little kid, we always went to Texas and, spent the night at their house and everything. And they had a pretty big house and pretty fancy house in Fort Worth, Texas. They had a swimming pool in the back. And it was like 1, 2, 3. I mean, it was like 4 or 5 bedroom house and about 3.5 bathrooms. It's a pretty big house, but it wasn't a mansion. But I just figured out why the aliens the reptilian keeps sticking me in their mansion under my altered state of consciousness. It's because, and like I say, I just figured this out. They like to mock. And when I was about 10... So anyway, my point is they are millionaires. Not filthy millionaires, but they're millionaires. Well, shit, I don't know. Yeah, I guess they would be filthy millionaires if they brought in about a million or more a year. So yeah, I guess they would be. They would have several million by now. Because like I say, they started the business long time ago. But now they're on their way out. Because like I say, Aunt Elaine is like 82 and John's like 84. And they just recently moved out of that house in Texas about 2 or 3 years ago because of John's Alzheimer's. And they moved to another location, a gated community, I think, because of John's Alzheimer's. But see, last time I saw John and Elaine was, I think it was 2013. I think that was the last time. Or maybe 2014. But anyway, it was either 2013 or 2014 the last time I saw John and Elaine. And actually, my Aunt Elaine, she reminds me a lot of Mrs. Doubtfire. Of course, you know, she's not really a real woman, but she reminds me of she always reminded me of Mrs. Doubtfire. And Uncle John actually reminds me of, there's this guy that talks about conspiracy stuff on YouTube. I can't think of his name now, but he reminds me a lot of John when he was a little younger, when John was a little younger. And I can't think of his name, but I know he talks about some conspiracy stuff. Oh man, I can't think of his name right now. But yeah, he reminded me a lot of him. And I have pictures of them, but I'd have to find them. But yeah, so it was about 2013 or 2014 was the last time I saw John and Elaine, because they go to like Maine every year, and then in October they come through this town and they visit with us for 2 or 3 days. But anyway, what was I going to say back when we would stay there at their house in Texas when I was younger? Well, what I was going to say was, I mean, you know, a lot of people, even if they could afford to live in a mansion, who the hell would want to live in a house that's freaking 50 bedrooms and 50 bathrooms? You know what I'm saying? I mean, back then, I was like 10, 11, 12 years old, and the two girls, my two cousins, were still living in the house, but they were about to, you know, be gone, you know, for college or whatever. The cousin, my male cousin, he was already out of the house because he was older than the two female cousins, and he was already out of the house in the military and stuff, and so it was just basically John and Elaine, you know, living in the house, and the two daughters, my two cousins, and they were like 3 and 5 years older than me. Oh no, they were older than that. They were like, well, yeah, at the time I guess they were probably like 16 or 17 and 18, but they were about, you know, to go to college and everything, and I was like, well, we went there, I don't know, at first when we went there, we started to stay with my other Aunt Patty. We stayed there a few times when I first started going there, and then all of a sudden we started staying at Uncle John and Aunt Elaine's house. And, yeah, and that was like, we went there several times, and I was probably like age 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then when I was really young, we stayed at my Aunt Patty's for whatever reason. But anyway, so they did live in a nice house, but they never lived in a mansion, so to speak. And, so anyway, I just figured this out, and the reason why they're always creating well, actually, the Reptilians, they're always sticking me in mansions, for whatever reason, but, and like I said, I've had hundreds of these lucid dreams where I'm walking around, specifically my Uncle John and Aunt Elaine's mansion, under these lucid dreams. And of course, you know, other times I'm in other mansions that aren't, you know, my Aunt Elaine and Uncle John. But I just figured this out. Okay, so I wrote a letter, I was probably like 10 or 11 or 12, I wrote a letter, you know, saying thank you for letting us stay at your house or whatever. When you know, me and my mom, my sister, and my brother and stuff would visit. So I wrote this letter saying, and I totally remember the letter. I wrote this letter saying, you know, thank you so much for letting us stay there with you and stuff. And we always had such a blast. And we would always, you know, go swimming and stuff in their swimming pool in the back. And I always knew they were wealthy, you know what I'm saying? And so I said in the letter, I said, it's a wonder you didn't live in a mansion. I said that in the letter, that it's a wonder, you know, you didn't live in a mansion. And now I realize the alien, or the reptilian, had mocked that all this time. That's why they keep sticking me in their mansion under my altered states. And, of course, I was probably 10, 11, or 12 when I said that. I mean, that wouldn't be real appropriate if you were older, but I guess at my age, I guess that was appropriate. But when I was 12, I probably didn't really act 12, you know what I mean? 12-year-olds now act like they're 20. But, anyway, like I said, I don't know why it took me this long to figure it out, but I just figured it out because the aliens, they do like to mock. I mean, it's just like if, you know, they can mock good ways and bad ways. Like if you're little and if you were always made fun of, like say you always had a big mole on your face or something, and you were always made fun of or whatever. Well, they'll give you, you know, forever, they'll give you these, you know, lucid dreams or whatever, and put stuff like that in your scenarios, you know, because they like to mock. You know, that's just an example. So that's why the aliens keep creating these millions and millions of lucid dreams for me, with, you know, walking around for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours in my Uncle John and Aunt Elaine's mansion. Okay, so the first experience, and I'm not going to try to like remember everything. That first day, the first morning was like on the 18th, and then the next day I had another one, so it's kind of funny. And the funny thing is, he mocked again. Whatever reptilian has given me this experience, he mocked again, because after the first time, I don't mean first time, I mean like I say, they give me this lucid dream, a lot, you know, per year or whatever. This wasn't the first time. I just mean the first experience, you know, on July 18th. You know, the ones that started on July 18th and 19th. That's what I mean. It wasn't the first experience. I just mean the first lucid dream on the 18th, and then the second lucid dream on the 19th. The first lucid dream on the 18th, after, you know, walking around in their mansion for hours and hours and hours, and after I woke up and everything, that's when I figured it out about that letter that I wrote in real life. And then on the 19th, the morning of the 19th, he gave me another one. It's like he was mocking again about, you know, my Uncle John and Aunt Elaine mansion. Okay, so like I said, I'm not going to try to like remember everything, because I mean, some of these lucid dreams like this, I mean, I'm literally just walking around for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, but I can tell you a few bits and pieces. Okay, so the first lucid dream was, I don't mean the very first, but you know what I'm saying. The first one, the ones that started on July 18th. That was the first one, July 18th, and the second one was July 19th. But like I say, they have given me hundreds and hundreds of these lucid dreams, the same theme with my Aunt Elaine and Uncle John's mansion, you know, previous, like all my life or whatever. Or at least since age, you know, 9 or 10 or whatever. Okay, so the first one goes down like this, on July 18th. Okay, so I'm like walking around in their mansion. And, okay, this particular time, okay, I was walking around, and it seemed like my mom was with me, my mom, my grandma, and we were walking around, I mean, just walking around for hours and hours and hours in this awesome mansion. But under this particular lucid dream, it was like my Aunt Elaine and Uncle John had already left the house and moved. You know, it was like abandoned, so to speak. They had already moved to, you know, to that other location under this experience. So I knew they weren't like coming back to the house. And for whatever reason, I don't know why we, you know, were visiting, since we knew they weren't coming back there. And so we were just walking around for hours and hours and hours and hours. And, oh, and there was some other people, too, that were walking around. And it's kind of like they weren't my family members, so it's kind of like they were being shown the house. I guess it was kind of like, you know, I guess the house was up for sale or whatever. And, you know, it was like, you know, people that were maybe thinking about buying the house or the mansion or whatever. But anyway, so I was walking around just forever and ever and ever. Now, I can tell you, now this is the most coolest and significant part. Okay, now the alien, he never did show me like the front of the house, you know what I'm saying, just the inside of the house. I mean, it was just totally huge. I mean, huge, huge, huge. And, okay, so at one point, I started walking down the stairs in the mansion. I started walking down the stairs, And over to my right, at the bottom of the stairs, was like, I guess it was like an end table or a table or whatever. And it had these two little statues. They were brown. They were like darkish brown. They were darkish brown. They didn't look human exactly. I don't know if they were like monks or something, or monks or whatever they're called. I don't know. But anyway, there was these two little statues. They were like 2.5 feet tall. And they were side by side, and as I walked by, and there was a woman that was near me, walking down the steps near me. And I can't remember who she was exactly. I guess maybe like a real estate agent or something. I don't know. But, so anyway, as I walked by, these two statues collapsed. It's like they were just kind of, it's almost like they were kind of like ethereal, and they were just kind of floating there. And then it's like the lady, she said, oh, you just kind of have to, you use your mind and stand them back up again with your mind, and then they'll just like stay like that. So I started looking at the two little tall brown statues, and like I say, they weren't like humans. I'm not sure what they were exactly, but I don't know. But they weren't, you know what I'm saying? So these two little statues, because like as I walked by, it's like my energy had made them collapse, like all ethereally or whatever. And or they were like semi-physical. And so then I started looking at them, and I made them stand up again, you know, with my mind or whatever. And then they just kind of stayed like that, just kind of floating there. It's really weird. Lots of times the aliens put really weird shit like that in my scenarios. I mean, like really weird stuff that after you wake up, you're like, how can you explain that in words? I guess this was a little easier to explain in words, but there's times where it's like, they put really weird stuff, and then after I wake up and stuff, it's like impossible to try to explain it in words. You know? Okay, so that was the first experience in my Aunt Elaine and Uncle John's mansion. Okay, the second one, on July 19th, these were two consecutive back-to-back lucid dreams in their mansion. My Uncle John and Aunt Elaine's mansion. Okay, so, the second, okay, I'm trying to remember, what was that? Oh yeah, so the second, there wasn't a lot of significant stuff in the second one, but there was, you know, a couple significant stuff. Okay, so I gotta hurry up before it cuts me off. Okay, so the second lucid dream, and this mansion, you know, was totally different than the first one, except it was still like huge, huge, huge. And they never did, the alien never did show me the front of the mansion, but I mean, it was just huge. We were walking around for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. Okay, so the second experience under this lucid dream, I was in my Uncle John and Aunt Elaine's mansion, and I was walking around hours and hours and hours and hours. And, okay, so, let's see, who was with me? Okay, this time, it was like I know my friend was with me. My friend Angie was with me. And and it seemed like maybe my brother, my sister, and maybe a couple other people. Okay, no, this time, Uncle John and Aunt Elaine, they were coming back to the mansion. They just had left on a brief vacation, and they were coming back to the mansion. You know, they were coming back to their house, and we knew that. We were anticipating that. Okay, so as I was walking around, at one point, I had opened up a door. I opened up a door to a room, and it was kind of like a storage room. And I looked around, and it was like a bunch of, you know, it was a storage room for a bunch of crap that, you know, Aunt Elaine just didn't want to put out in her house. But as I looked around, it was a bunch of like my toys, my retro toys that I actually have in this house. Yeah, like some of my retro toys, you know, I still have, you know, in this house. And under this lucid dream, it's like in her storage room, a bunch of my toys were in there. And so that was kind of funny. I mean, it was very clear. I mean, this whole experience was very, very clear. And I was like looking at all the toys, and it was just kind of funny. And it was filled full of stuff, but a lot of the stuff was my toys, my retro toys. Okay, so Another part of the experience, I had somehow walked up the stairs, and me and Angie were sitting there near the windows. Near these, the windows were pretty big and glassy, and I remember thinking, ooh, I don't want to like I don't want to sit there too close to the windows because then I'll feel like I'm falling out the window. And I knew I didn't really want to look down because I'm kind of afraid of heights. Well, I did finally look down, and I was just like, oh my God, we must have been, I was like, wow. And even under this experience, I was thinking this. I was like, wow, when I looked down, I was like, we must be on like the 20th floor. I mean, because we were really, really high. You know what I'm saying? I don't actually remember getting an elevator or, going up the steps. But anyway, like I said, at one point, we were in that room. It was like a den or something. And me and Angie was just, and they do this a lot. The aliens do that a lot. Like, they make me be afraid of heights and shit in my experiences. I mean, because I'm afraid of heights, in real life. Most people are. So they create these scenarios where I'm afraid of heights, because they like to mock. And they know how to resonate with you and everything. So, I mean, they do that a lot. But as I looked down, I was like, oh my God. But we were must have been on the 20th floor. Because we were that high. It wasn't just like the 3rd or 4th floor. It was like the 20th floor. Okay, so that was, a significant part. The other significant part was really funny. Okay, so then, finally, how can I forget this shit? My Aunt Elaine, my Uncle John, they come back into the house, like, la 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 la, like, hello, they come in the front door, and at that point, we're on the first level. They come to the front door, and they're like, we're back, and then I saw Uncle John go to the right and go into another room, and I looked at the back of his pants, and it looked like he had womanly jeans on. That was kind of funny. The jeans looked totally like a woman's pair of jeans that he had on. But they were nice, they were clean and everything. And like I said, this isn't the first time the aliens have put dresses on men and shit like that. Or skirts on men. So anyway, that was kind of a significant part. But I did not talk to John. He just came in, and then he went into another room. And like I said, I saw the back of his jeans, and I just was observing them. They were like light bluish color. And they looked like a female pair of jeans. Okay, so that was kind of significant. Okay, so then my Aunt Elaine, she brings like 4 or 5 of her old bag women in, like la 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 la. And then she goes over there and starts cooking these lavish meals and like soups and stuff. And the soups look so good. After she made the soups, one of them kind of looked like a potato soup. After she made the soups and stuff, she was standing there in the kitchen. She was making all this lavish meals for her friends, her old bag friends, 5 or 6 friends, old ladies that came into the house when they got back from their vacation. And I was standing there, and I'm like, she didn't even offer me any soup or anything, and I'm thinking, aren't you going to give us some soup? I was thinking that in my head, like, aren't you going to give us some soup? But she never did. Like, she was just cooking it for her friends. So that part was kind of significant. But anyway, so I'm sure I'm forgetting a lot of parts. But it's not, important parts. I mean, because like I say, it's just, some of these lucid dreams, I mean, you're just walking around for hours and hours and hours and hours. But anyway, yeah, and I was just thinking that's kind of rude not to fix us any soup or food, because we were guests of the house as well, but she just wanted to cook it all for her old bag friends. And, but, when I looked at the soups and stuff, I mean, they look so good. I mean, you know what I mean? And, but anyway, so that is, believe you me, they're going to give me more, lucid dreams too, in their mansion. They always do. They probably will forever. But anyway, I figured it out why the reptilian had been doing this. It's because I wrote that letter and made that comment. It's, I said, blah, 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 blah. Thank you for letting us come to your house. And I don't know what else I said. And I said, I specifically remember saying, it's a wonder you don't live in a mansion. And the letter. And so that's why all this time, hundreds and hundreds of times, the aliens create these scenarios for me that I'm in my Uncle John and Aunt Elaine's mansion. Thanks for listening.